Hey everybody, welcome into Folklore and Flourish. You're here with Jane over at Blue Box 29. It is August 18th. We are in the third week of August already. We're almost completely done with our second season. And then it's only like 4 more months left. 130-ish days total. 120, 130 days total. But we're doing it. We're almost there. Pretty crazy. But anyways, we are in the third week of August, which means we are at the burning away. We've talked a lot so far this week about we aren't what happened to us and shorter version of the lessons that we've seen. And today is so important because speaking for myself, I have really stepped away, and no, I'm not giving anybody crazy advice, talk to your doctor or whatever. I've stepped away from a lot of the prescription medication. I just found it was not making my body feel good or my mind. And I've been doing a lot of the holistic stuff as well as just kind of focusing on myself spiritually, my relationship with the source, the maker, whatever you want to call it. And so I really enjoyed today because it focuses on things that are in the earth or around us that we can use to actually heal our body and ourselves. But with all of that today, the topic is the renewal with the theme of healing by flame. So the different ways that we can use these things with fire to help us heal. And so the lesson is warmth restores. We're going to see that through Greek, Egyptian, Chinese, and African folklore today. Some of them are going to be specific stories and others are going to be broader medicinal context for today because it sends quite a number of things your way that you can look up and use. One really popular herb today is mugwort, so you got to see that. But as you are looking at those today and listening to this podcast, think about what is healing. So what is healing within you? What does it even mean to heal? What do we mean by that? Everyone says I'm healing. Go do some healing. What does that even mean? Okay, so think about that today as well. And step briefly into sunlight, allowing its warmth to rest on your skin as a reminder that restoration often arrives quietly. Mark and I have been doing that a lot more lately. Mark, way more than I am. But I've been really focusing on not wearing sunglasses. I wear these glasses, they don't turn into sunglasses. But when I wear my contacts, I've been really focusing on not wearing sunglasses because I've heard that that actually throws your body off and it throws off your receptors potentially in your skin. And as you can tell, I have the complexion that gets really sunburned really fast. And then after the sunburn, it turns tan or I freckle. So that's where I'm at. I can't really afford to allow the biggest organ on my body, biggest organ that's part of my body to just fry out in the sun. So I also don't love sunscreen. I know it's so much. I need to make my own stuff in that context. But my skin's been doing way better, really avoiding the sunglasses. And it's actually helped with my eyes. My eyes always feel like they're burning outside, like the reflection off of stuff. Heard that's common with lighter colored eyes. But yeah, it's just been a little bit at a time, but treating the sun as a healer rather than this dangerous force is kind of where I'm getting to today. Anyways, Jane, cool. Let's get to the stories. We're going to also support one area of recovery today without forcing its pace. So it's not go, 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 just work through it. Just take a little bit of time today to acknowledge that that area is in recovery. Let it recover at its own pace. Let yourself recover. Let yourself heal when you figure out what that means to you. I had a friend the other day that told me, I really just need to allow my heart and my soul to heal. She really just advised me that I'm making some really good choices and to just remember, just let yourself heal, right? Allow yourself to heal. And before you can do that, you have to acknowledge the pain, the hurt. You have to acknowledge where you need the healing and why you need the healing. And we are in the point today with the renewal where we get to just sit and relax and allow recovery. We're not wallowing in the why it hurts. Instead, we're just respecting our body, our mind, our soul, realizing that it's just one day at a time, because that's honestly all we can do. But with that, I can hear Mark coming in, so I'm excited to see him. Give him kisses. Ooh, buddy. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the cultures behind the stories we are about to explore. The tales shared here come from many peoples, lands, and traditions. I do not change these stories to fit modern expectations or to align with today's social standards. Instead, I present them as they were told, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh, sometimes challenging. We are not here to judge the past, but to understand it, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ancestors who carried these stories forward. We also share stories from various religious traditions. These are presented in their historical and spiritual context, with respect for their beliefs that they represent. Every culture deserves respect, context, and acknowledgement, and this space is dedicated to doing exactly that. August 18th, the Renewal. Story 1, Helios and the Shepherd Who Saw Too Much. Long before the sun became something measured by clocks and instruments, the Greeks looked upward and saw Helios, crossing the heavens, an all-seeing god whose light reached places hidden from human eyes. Each morning he rose in the east, traveled across the sky, and witnessed the world beneath him, making Helios a divine observer as much as a bringer of warmth and light. One ancient story preserved by the historians, Herodotus, tells what happened when that relationship between sunlight, sight, and human responsibility was violated. In the Greek city of Apollonia, near the Adriatic Sea, Helios possessed a sacred flock of sheep guarded by chosen citizens. The animals were considered so important that wealthy and respected men were appointed to watch over them, each keeper serving for a year. One of these guardians was a man named Venus. During his watch, wolves entered the enclosure and killed around 60 of the sacred sheep. Venus had failed at his task entrusted to him, and the people of Apollonia decided upon a brutal punishment. They blinded him. But after Venus lost his sight, something began happening to the land itself. The sheep stopped producing as they had before. The earth yielded less. Crops failed. The land that had once nourished the community seemed to withdraw its abundance. Confused and frightened, the Apollonites sent messengers to the great oracles at Delphi and Dodona to discover why their prosperity had vanished. The answer turned the city's judgment upside down. The gods declared that Venus had been punished unjustly. According to the oracle, the wolves had come by divine will, and Helios was angered because the people had taken vengeance into their own hands for something that had not truly been theirs to judge. The land would remain barren until Venus received whatever compensation he himself considered sufficient. The citizens therefore approached the blinded shepherd carefully, concealing what the oracle had told them, and asked what payment he would consider fair if the city ever wished to compensate him for what had been done. Venus named property and possessions that would restore some measure of his security. The people immediately granted his request. Only afterward did he learn why they had been so willing, and according to Herodotus, he was furious that they had tricked him into naming his price before revealing the prophecy. Yet the story did not end with blindness. After his loss, Venus received something entirely unexpected, the ability of divination. He became renowned for understanding signs and foretelling events, and his son, Diaphanus, later traveled with the Greek army as a seer during the Persian Wars. The man whose physical sight had been taken from him became remembered for another kind of sight altogether. Helios did not simply restore Venus's eyes. In the ancient story never pretends the injury vanished. Instead, abundance returned when the wrong against him was acknowledged. while Lavinius himself emerged possessing a faculty he had never carried before. In a story governed by the god, who sees everything beneath the sun, the person deprived of ordinary sight became the one capable of seeing what others could not. Story 2, Sekhmet, the lioness who guarded life. Beneath the Egyptian sun stood a goddess whose power contained an extraordinary contradiction. She could bring destruction, yet people also turned to her for healing. Her name was Sekhmet, the powerful one, the lioness-headed daughter of the sun god Ra, whose crown often carried the brilliant solar disk. Sekhmet embodied the fierce heat of the sun, the strength of the lioness, royal protection, and the dangerous force that could overwhelm human life. But she was also deeply connected with medicine and restoration. The Egyptians did not necessarily see those powers as opposites. The force capable of bringing illness could also be called upon to drive it away, and the goddess whose scorching breath inspired fear could become the divine protector sought when someone needed healing. Her connection with medicine became so strong that an entire class of religious specialists was known as the priests of Sekhmet. These were not simply temple attendants reciting prayers beside statues. Evidence from ancient Egypt connects Sekhmet's priesthood with practical healing work, and surviving sources associate them particularly with medicine, ritual protection, and even the treatment of injuries such as broken bones. Egyptian healing itself brought together knowledge that modern categories often separate. A healer could observe the body, prepare remedies from plants, minerals, honey, oils, and other substances, perform practical treatments, speak protective words, invoke divine powers, and use amulets as different parts of the same healing tradition. The remarkable Ebers Papyrus, written around the 16th century BCE, preserves hundreds of prescriptions and treatments, and reflects a world in which medicine, religion, and sacred practice could work beside one another, rather than occupying opposing camps. Sekhmet belonged naturally within that world. During the reign of Amenhotep III, in the 14th century BCE, hundreds of statues of the lioness goddess were erected at his great temple complex in western Thebes. Some scholars have connected this extraordinary multiplication of Sekhmet images with her protective and healing powers, while the statues themselves reveal how seriously her presence was taken. Imagine approaching one, the body of a woman seated or standing in perfect stillness, the head of a lioness staring forward, the solar disk resting above her. Here was the heat of Ra made visible, but also a power that could be approached through prayer, offering, ritual, and skilled healing. Her priests inherited that same balance. Healing did not require pretending dangerous forces did not exist. It meant knowing how to confront, redirect, soothe, protect against, or restore what those forces had disturbed. Sekhmet therefore became one of ancient Egypt's most compelling guardians of health precisely because she understood both sides of power. The Egyptians could approach the lioness not because she represented a world without sickness or injury, but because her strength was believed capable of meeting those things directly. Beneath the solar disk upon her head, destruction and restoration belonged to the same immense force, and the hands devoted to Sekhmet learned to work where those two possibilities met. Story 3, The Sun Mirror and the Medicine of Moxa. Long before glass lenses or electric heat, Chinese healers learned to work with one of the oldest medicines available to humanity, warmth. Among the traditions that developed from this knowledge was moxibustion, known as Geo, a healing practice most famously used dried mugwort, aicao, whose burning warmth is applied at carefully selected places on the body. Ancient Chinese medical tradition understood the human beings as inseparable from the movements of the natural world, with health connected to the circulation and balance of qi, the complementary forces of yin and yang, the seasons, climate, nourishment, rest, and the condition of the body's channels. Within that system, warmth carried particular importance because cold could penetrate, obstruct, and weaken, while carefully directed heat could warm and stimulate. One tradition concerning the beginnings of moxibustion places its development in the cold northern regions of ancient China, where people discovered that warming particular areas of the body could relieve suffering. But an even more extraordinary practice connected this earthly fire directly with the greatest source of heat in the sky. Early traditions describe healers using a solar mirror, sometimes called a burning mirror, to concentrate sunlight strongly enough to ignite the mugwort used for moxibustion. The moxa flame could therefore begin not from another household fire, but from the sun itself. The symbolism fit naturally within Chinese understanding of yang. Sunlight represented an immense celestial source of warmth, activity, and life, while the mugwort growing from the earth belonged to the living landscape below. The mirror brought them together. Once ignited, the prepared moxa could be burned near or upon designated locations, allowing heat to penetrate the area being treated. By the time of the Qin and Hong periods, moxibustion had already developed into a sophisticated medical practice. Texts discovered in the famous Mawangdui tombs, sealed in 168 BCE, describe vessels or pathways through the body and methods of treating them with moxibustion, proving remarkable evidence for how early Chinese healers organized their knowledge of heat and the body's internal connections. Later works, especially the Huangdi Nei Jing, the Yellow Emperor's Inner Classic, placed acupuncture, moxibustion, environment, diet, seasons, qi, yan, yin, and yang within an increasingly systematic understanding of the body. Mugwort itself remained deeply valued. The plant could be gathered, dried, processed into soft moxa, formed into cones or rolls, and used in different ways depending upon the treatment. What began with the observation that warmth could change how the body felt became a medical tradition refined across generations. And within the old image of the solar mirror lies something particularly beautiful. Healing knowledge did not require separating the human body from the world surrounding it. A plant grew from the earth. A mirror caught the sun. Human hands brought the two together. Then the warmth of the heavens was carried carefully toward the body. Story 4. The healers who carried fire into the herbs. Across Ethiopia, traditional healing knowledge has been carried through families, specialists, religious communities, and local healers for generations, drawing upon an extraordinary landscape of medicinal plants and methods of preparing them. Ethiopia contains thousands of plant species, and ethnobotanical research has documented hundreds used within traditional medicine, with leaves, roots, seeds, bark, herbs, and shrubs transformed into remedies through crushing, boiling, steeping, mixing, burning, and heating. In some communities, however, the plant was only part of the medicine. Fire changed what the plant could become. Dried leaves or roots might be placed upon flame or hot coals so their smoke could be inhaled. Other plants were boiled over fire so that their rising steam could surround the body or be breathed in. Ethnobotanical research in the Tigray region was recorded leaves and roots boiled so their vapor could be inhaled for certain ailments, while dried plant material was sometimes placed directly upon fire and its smoke used in traditional treatments. Elsewhere in southwestern Ethiopia, researchers have documented traditional steam baths and smoke baths, preparations in which heat becomes the means by which medicinal plants move beyond the hand and into the air surrounding the person. Even coffee, native to Ethiopia and woven deeply into Ethiopian cultural life, enters this world of restorative heat. In southwestern communities, an indigenous drink known as kemo is prepared from coffee leaves that may first be roasted or heated over fire, then crushed and boiled with locally available herbs and spices such as ginger, basil, Lipia abyssinica, and chili. People interviewed in recent ethnobotanical research described the hot drink as warming and restorative, while variations were prepared within households according to local knowledge and need. The better-known Ethiopian coffee ceremonies creates another meeting place between fire, plants, aroma, and community. Green coffee beans are roasted over heat until their scent fills the room, while incense, such as frankincense, may burn nearby. The beans are ground, brewed in the clay jevana, and shared through successive servings while conversations unfold around them. Research into Ethiopian coffee traditions has documented the ceremony's role not merely as hospitality, but as a place where people gather during grief, childbirth, celebration, conflict, and difficult periods of life, allowing elders and community members to listen, advise, and support one another. Across these different practices, Ethiopian healing cannot be reduced to one herb, one healer, or one ritual. The country contains many peoples, languages, landscapes, religious traditions, and bodies of medicinal knowledge. Yet again and again, fire appears as a transformer. It roasts the leaf, it boils the water, it releases the vapor, it carries fragrance into the room, it gathers people around warmth, while knowledge passes from one generation to another, long before any remedy reaches the person receiving it. Someone must know which plant to gather, which part to use, whether it should remain fresh or be dried, whether it should be crushed, boiled, burned, inhaled, drunk, or placed upon the body. The flame does not replace that knowledge. It activates one of the ways that knowledge is carried. Daily thread for August 18th. What is healing? Healing is often imagined as a return. We want the wound to close, the pain to disappear, the strength to come back, and everything to become what it was before something went wrong. But today's traditions offer a much larger picture. Healing does not always mean returning to who or what we were. Sometimes healing means discovering what restores life now. In Greece, the story of Venus and Helios began with something that could not simply be undone. Venus had been blinded unjustly, and his physical sight was not magically returned. Instead, justice was demanded, abundance returned to the land, and Venus emerged with another kind of sight, the gift of divination. His story reminds us that restoration can occur without erasing what happened. In Egypt, Sekhmet embodied both the dangerous intensity of solar power and its protective, restorative force. Her priests became associated with healing, while Egyptian medicine drew upon observation, plants, minerals, preparations, ritual, prayer, and generations of accumulated knowledge. Healing did not require pretending destructive forces were absent. It meant knowing how to meet them. Ancient Chinese medicine gives us an equally beautiful image in moxibustion, mugwort gathered from the earth, prepared by human hands and warmed by flame, with some traditions even describing sunlight concentrated through a burning mirror to kindle the moxa. The body existed within the same natural world as the plant, the fire, the seasons, and the sun. Healing could therefore mean restoring relationship and movement within a whole system rather than isolating one piece from everything surrounding it. And across Ethiopia, medicinal plants, steam, smoke, heat, coffee, herbs, and community reveal still more dimensions of restoration. A plant might be boiled until its vapor filled the air. Leaves might be transformed through heat. Coffee might be roasted and shared while people gathered around one another through grief, celebration, difficulty, or change. Sometimes what restores us comes through the body. Sometimes it comes through the earth. Sometimes it comes through warmth, nourishment, knowledge, ritual, rest, relationship, or simply having other people sit beside us while something hurts. That brings us to today's question. What is healing? Perhaps we have made the word too small. Healing does not have to mean becoming untouched. A scar can remain on healed skin. A memory can remain after grief has changed. A person can recover without becoming the person they were before the experience. Healing can mean learning which environments allow us to flourish and which continually drain us. It can mean sleeping when the body asks for rest, feeding it well, moving it, sitting in sunlight, working with plants, creating something, praying, laughing, crying, setting a boundary, accepting help, or finally giving ourselves the warmth we so readily offer everyone else. And sometimes healing is not something we do aggressively at all. The sun does not pull a seedling from the soil to make it grow faster. Warmth creates conditions in which life can do what life already knows how to do. Perhaps we can offer ourselves the same patience. Instead of asking instead of asking only, how do I fix myself? Ask, what conditions help me come alive? What gives me warmth? What nourishes me? What makes my body soften instead of brace? Who helps me feel more whole after I've been around them? Those answers may reveal something important. Healing is not always a battle against what hurts. Sometimes it is a slow creation of conditions in which something living can begin to flourish again. Warmth does not demand that the wounded thing become what it was before. It simply reaches it, nourishes it, and gives life somewhere safe to begin again.